Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today we're going to change things up a little bit. Wanted to quickly talk about the new Civilization 6 DLC, expansion pack, what have you, Gathering Storm. I've had a few people ask me about it. I have been playing it a little bit on my own time since it has been released, and for those of you guys who don't know, I'm definitely a big fan of Civilization 6. Plan on covering it more on the channel, especially now with the release of Gathering Storm. Game's in a pretty interesting place, I have to say. It's definitely a lot of fun. So quickly I wanted to go over what's changed in Gathering Storm. This is a snapshot of a Pachacuti Inca campaign I've been playing, and things are going rather swimmingly. We're in the early modern, I guess late modern. We're getting pretty close to atomic now. Having just crossed over a few civs actually into atomic, it looks like, but this is sort of a good place to take a snapshot of what's happening, because we have basically all of the new systems starting to be in play here. So with the Incans, we get access to one of the new features, which is mountain tunnels. So it took me a little bit to get used to this, but you can actually build these very early on as the Incans. Obviously they have a lot of bonuses to being in the mountains. Don't want to get too much into that specifically right now, but you can see like this unit of infantry here can actually move all the way over here because there's a mountain tunnel adjacent to this tile. So he can actually move into this tunnel and straight out over here, which is actually pretty neat, especially when you're playing as the Incans. Obviously you can use these mountains, which I did early on, to then kind of forward settle these areas. And yeah, we've also got some other new mechanics here. Obviously the resources are all different. You can see up at the top I've got stockpiles of resources. Currently all of them are increasing. Oil actually is neutral. We are using as much as we are generating currently. I've got this naval task force here. All of these ships use oil, and I also think I have maybe one oil power plant over here, which is also using oil, which yeah, drains from the stockpile. Coal, you can see, is actually going down. I have a couple of coal power plants and a number of other units that use coal as well. I believe, I want to say battleships use coal. I don't remember 100%, but yeah. The point is, my stockpile is draining, so currently I'm trying to get some builders online. You can see I just unlocked offshore oil rigs, so I'm going to get these oil sites up and running to start generating more oil so that we can switch some of those power plants over to use oil instead. Eventually we're going to want to go renewable, of course. The other big sort of plot point, I guess, of Gathering Storm, obviously in the name, is going to be your natural disasters. So if we go ahead and have a look here, currently the sea levels haven't risen at all yet, but they are expected to change within the next 20 turns here. To help defend against that, I've built these flood barriers. You can see in a number of cities. I rushed the tech to build these flood barriers because I wanted to be able to settle some potentially risky areas. You can see especially this city down here has quite a few flood barriers protecting some areas. This one as well. So yeah, it's pretty important that you get those online if you're planning to go, you know, all in on the CO2. So all these resources that you use, obviously that would generate CO2, like coal and oil, generate CO2, which then contributes to rising sea levels. And they have various levels of climate change where the sea will rise more and more, and only certain tiles will get flooded, and you'll be able to see that if you go to the settler lens. I want to say, no, maybe not. I forget where it is, but when you have a settler, it'll actually tell you, you know, okay, this tile is going to be, you know, potentially flooded on phase 1, phase 3, and so on. So it will, whoops, sorry, Scotland. So yeah, it will sort of let you know in advance, so you can kind of plan where you're going to need to, you know, settle, where it's smart to settle, where it's more risky to settle. But yeah, if you get those flood barriers online, you are going to be more or less safe from that. The other thing is the natural disasters can affect you as well. Early on in the campaign, there was a tornado that started over here in Scotland, came through. It didn't do a whole lot of damage, but it did take down the population of this city by 1, which was a little bit rough in the early game, but we managed to pull through. There are also some floodplain areas here. You can see I built a dam here, which then protects this floodplain area from being flooded, so when it floods, you don't get as much benefit from it, but likewise, it doesn't damage the improvements that are being built there. You can see I'm actually working on a spaceport here, so obviously very important to have that dam there. Scotland also has a dam, I want to say, in this floodplain. Yep, right here. So there are various things you can do to mitigate against the disasters. You're not completely helpless, but definitely it does sort of add a nice little random element to the game. This particular game has been too punishing for me, just because the Incans, because of their start bias near mountains, aren't really going to be subject too much to a lot of those natural disasters, unless you happen to spawn by a bunch of volcanoes, which in that case you can sort of take advantage of the volcanoes. I want to say there are some down here, but basically, yep, looks like one or a couple right here. So this city potentially has some issues with volcanoes, but when these erupt, they will actually give bonus yields to the tiles all around them, so you can definitely take advantage of some of those benefits. Likewise, when the tiles here flood, they also get, you know, some additional yields and so on, so it definitely adds some cool random elements to the game. You know, are they super impactful? I'm not 100% sure yet. We're getting pretty close to the late game here, and I'm curious to see. The sea level rise isn't going to affect me too much, but some of the other civs who are a little bit behind on the tech curve, I'm interested to see how much it's actually going to affect them. So we'll kind of see on that. Another big, I guess, part of that, obviously, I talked about my power stations. You can see this little icon here. It does mean these cities are all powered. So if we go ahead and click on that, you can see this city right here, Wanuku, is consuming 6 power, and it requires 6 power. So we're right on point. The power stations can actually reach multiple cities. Like this city doesn't actually have its own power station. Its power is coming from Machu over here. This is where that power station is. This is, I believe, an oil power plant. So yeah, you can see the power being generated here going to this city and 2 other cities as well. And of course, if I wanted to switch that over, I could come down here. There's a project to convert to oil power, which I'm going to need to run pretty soon. I might actually slot that in. There's the new queue system. This is just a nice little UI improvement. So I could come in here and say, okay, we're going to get that additional oil online soon, so I'm going to put that oil power plant on there as soon as possible. Let's go ahead and purchase a couple builders to go get on these oil resources here, and we'll kind of get that rolling. So yeah, new systems definitely add a lot. The power, what it does is certain buildings require power. Like we can see this stock exchange here, if you look at the UI for that, generates 4 gold baseline, which is what it did before, but an additional 7 gold if it's powered. So you can see how having power in your cities just juices up their yields immensely, makes you generate a lot more of each yield. Definitely very beneficial to have your cities powered, but of course the flip side of that is, you know, if you're behind on the tech curve, you maybe don't have access to flood barriers, you could potentially have tiles get flooded, or in later stages of sea level rise even lose tiles, which is definitely very rough. They'll just be completely submerged and basically become sea tiles. So yeah, there's definitely some give and take there. I believe the disaster frequency also increases as the climate changes as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of interplay there. So personally, as I'm already a fan of Civ 6, have a lot of hours in the game, these new gameplay systems are just more meat and potatoes for me. So I guess it's sort of hard for me to give an objective review, which is why I'm probably not necessarily going to title this a review per se. But if you like Civ 6, or if you've been waiting to get into it, this is probably the most complete the game's ever been, and it offers a number of new systems beyond the older Civ games at this point, which really are, yeah, they're a lot of fun to play with. The other system I'm neglecting here is the World Congress. So this is a return from the older Civ games, but it's definitely a new type of system. Basically, you guys may or may not have seen this before, but you spend this currency here, diplomatic favor, which you can generate a number of different ways to vote on the various agendas. You always get 1 vote for free, but you know, if additional votes will cost exponentially more diplomatic favor, so definitely can be pretty rough in that way, but you can win a diplomatic victory if you have enough favor. I'm generating a ton of diplomatic favor in this game, so you can see I've actually got a number of diplomatic victory points, 2 from emergencies. So if someone has a natural disaster happen that's really, you know, just totally devastating to them, they can ask for, they can spend a little bit of diplomatic favor to ask for an emergency, basically have people give them gold, and whoever gives them the most gold actually gets a diplomatic victory point. I've won 2 of those because I was just generating a ton of gold, and I also now just in the last session voted to give myself 2 more points because I have a ton of diplomatic favor. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to lean into a diplomatic victory on this particular game. I'm also leading in science as well, but if I can get to the diplomatic victory before the science, we'll go that route. Maybe we'll go to the science, you know, if that fails. But yeah, definitely a very fun game, a very fun expansion, I should say. Definitely adds a lot to the game, and I'm interested to dive into more of the systems. This is sort of the first game I've played in the new expansion, and you know, just experimenting with the new systems, playing around with it. Definitely think the Incans are a good civilization to sort of dive into the new systems on. And just real quick, look at these yields real quick. This tile in particular has 13 yields, 9 food and 4 production. Over here we have one with 10, 6 production, 4 food. You know, 11 here. There's you know, 11 here. So this wonder just gives bonus yields to the ones around it. And the Incans have this nice terrace farm, which itself has some pretty insane yields with the right adjacencies. You can see it's getting it actually gets adjacencies from this aqueduct right here, and then obviously from being next to each other, and yeah, just all sorts of fun goodies. So yeah, I also have a beautiful Petra city up here, just real quick. For those of you who have played Civ 6, Petra is an awesome wonder, and it juices up your desert tiles. You can see all these desert tiles. These silver mines just have insane yields here, so very fun stuff. So yeah, quick thoughts on Gathering Storm. A little bit unscripted. I just, you know, wanted to, some people have been asking me about it, and so I wanted to share my thoughts with you guys. Some others of you may have been interested, you know, been wondering about it. So I personally would recommend it, but again, it's a little bit hard for me to give a totally unbiased review because I'm already a fan of Civ 6. I didn't get the, you know, like a review key or anything. I bought it myself, so I did spend money on it, but for me, the asking price isn't a big issue, so, you know, be that what it is. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to be doing some more Civ 6 content soon. I'm thinking we're going to do a Mansa Musa, you know, Dov Pays stream sometime within the next couple weeks when I get a little bit more time. Don't have a ton of time this week with Valentine's Day. I'm very, very busy with my day job for pretty much the whole weekend, so probably not going to get a chance to stream until maybe Sunday or Monday, but stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick look at Civ 6 Gathering Storm. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. And yeah, I'm going to continue world domination here until I have to go to work in about, you know, 15-20 minutes. So we'll catch you guys later.